Is there like a different way you think someone could deal with imposter syndrome?
The mindset to like have with that is to realize that it's probably not going to go away. You look at some of the most successful artists, authors, and it just doesn't go away. And they're multi-million-dollar platinum hits, books out, and they're just like, every time I'm sitting down to start, like Neil Gaiman, he wrote American Gods, Coraline. Every time he sits down to start, he's like, it feels like I've forgotten how to write. I've gotten all these awards and I'm looking at them on my wall, but like, I don't feel like an author.
We'll just jump into, I think the first most important question is...
we're just jumping right into questions.
Straight into it. We're going to put you on your toes.
Okay.
You and
I
those
thought we were going to
eyebrows.
talk about the weather and like pleasantries and like...
Well, I think we did that with the sushi.
Oh, that's making it? Okay, cool.
But how do you balance your reading time?
Oh, no.
Is it something you
What's
do?
your strategy?
Is it... I mean, you work, right?
Yeah.
So... is there, scheduling is, how do you plan that for yourself?
Well, what's important for me to answer first, what I need to know is, are you being serious? Because if you're being serious, I can give you a serious answer. If not, I can, give you a kind of joking answer with my voice really high up here.
Well, I mean, I just feel like some people, they work a lot and reading can be exhausting for the mind. So like, how does one...
Exhausting for the mind.
Listen, I don't read enough. I
It's
should
true.
read more. But no, seriously, Alan, what's going on? I'm happy to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
Who the fuck are you? What's up?
Why do we have you on?
Jesus Christ, I don't know what answer to come at first and what question. He's asking me about my reading time, asking me to introduce myself. I guess I'll do the introduction thing first. I am not a famous person at all, and you guys have had a lot of famous people on your podcast, so I feel like a lot of...
One or two.
Like, easily, yeah.
Yeah.
They were
One
really
of the
inspiring
hosts.
people. And like, I just kind of study. I just kind of am a hermit, and am finishing my master's in clinical psychology at York University, and I'm starting my PhD this fall, and I got 5 more years of that. So I guess my role as a person is just a student right now. That's what I'm doing.
But I remember when you started to take the turn into like psychology. At first, you were like a health studies guy. And you started taking a turn in psychology. I feel like when you started to do that, it was like the rise of the Jordan Peterson era. I remember. I think you had an early class with him before he was famous.
Yeah.
And then our friend Peter was getting into it. And then like through osmosis, you guys always talking. I feel like I gained a lot of like sort of knowledge or just like understanding of like the human experience and what goes on in our brains. Pete and I talk about creativity, and then there's certain personality traits that fall under people who are creative or people who maybe are business focused, entrepreneurial. And personally, I kind of find a similarity in entrepreneurs and artists. And I kind of want to talk today a bit about what is that personality trait? Are there things that people should know about what could they potentially fall into in the trait category and the shortcomings that come with that? And then how do you deal with those? Because I feel like when the first step is diagnosis, what are the things that I deal with? And then from there, how do I make an actionable plan?
Okay.
So I kind of want to dive into that.
I feel like a lot of people get stuck in between those steps too. They like recognize that they have an issue at some level. Maybe it's really conscious, maybe it's not so much. But then they say, well, I don't know where to go from here. I know a lot of people like that.
I feel like most people are like, I feel this way, like,
but it's just me. It's my nature. It's just me.
Yeah, or they're like, I can't put my finger on it. I just feel shitty today, or I just feel this way when I do this, or whatever it is.
Right.
But yeah.
So how do you go from knowing that there is something, a problem, for lack of a better word, to strategies and how to solve that?
Right. So, I mean, first I want to talk about, because you mentioned entrepreneurs and creative people.
Like
you've
artists.
noticed, and artists have this set of, I guess, like personality traits that you've noticed are similar. I mean, I'm not asking you to tell me what that is, but like if you've noticed ways of them being around you, or like if you've picked it out in like famous people or something, can you like put your finger on it of like what that is?
I have limited knowledge on the personality traits. I know they're very open, like high in openness.
Sure.
Is that I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about traits. Like, what do they do where you're like, they're kind of similar?
Lack of organization, a lot of times. A lot
All
of
over the
times,
place.
speaking personally.
Time management, see ya. Schedule, bye. I mean,
See ya.
but it's kind of funny because like entrepreneurs, I feel like they're calendared out.
Yeah.
But artists are like, oh, I'll hang out with this person, then I'll stay up until 6 a.m. drawing something or like writing something. You know what I mean? They're kind of all
Why
over
do
the
I
place.
feel so tired the next day? I don't know.
Why do I feel sad? I feel like they're both isolating. They
Mm.
both isolate a lot. Like just as people, I've just noticed that they're really okay with being alone, and not necessarily always needing people around. But they also love attention. I feel like
Yeah.
they like to isolate, but love the opposite.
Love attention. Sounds like me. That's why I cut you off. I also see among all these like creative entrepreneur artists love breaking the rules. At some level, they have a need to break the rules.
Disrupt.
Yeah. I'm a disruptor.
And I mean, I guess there's also a difference between like entrepreneurs that are just starting out, like it's like a startup, and like when they get to the very end of it, where it's like now I have 50 or 100 people under me that I need to like be responsible for. And I think that step, which is a real possibility for anybody that does a startup or anything like an online business or something, now that you're responsible for 50 or 100 people, those traits that you had at the beginning that were helping you make the startup a thing aren't going to help you anymore. So the way, first of all, full disclaimer, I am not up to date on the research of all this stuff. It's things that I've picked up, like you said, through osmosis, just being in the field and like reading different articles and books about it. But the best way to look at traits is just to remember the acronym OCEAN. So it's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And that's, a mix of those 5 traits is what everybody has. You look at artists, they've got a lot of openness. Just open to everything. You go, hey, like this is Drake. This is a new Drake song. And they're like, cool. And they're like, this is just noise. And they're into that as well, like just equally.
Or it's like, do you want to try this new thing? It's going to help you maybe with this part of like your job or career. And they're just like, I'll take it. And they just eat anything or drink
eat
anything.
anything.
Yeah, dude, like Tim Ferriss, that his fan base.
Timbo?
Timmy Yash. Jadaba?
Yerba mate, yeah.
But seriously, there's a lot of people who are like, what are the fucking new, what are those biohack drugs? What are they called? He has a whole video called something, healthy drugs.
Smart kid drugs?
Smart drugs. Yeah. He has a whole
drugs.
smart drugs video.
Adderall. It's not Adderall.
No, it's like ketones. We won't get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so openness.
Yeah, there's openness, and then there's conscientiousness. And when you think of a CEO of a business, that's what you're thinking of. So the opposite almost of what you were talking about. They will always have their things on. They're the type of motherfuckers who like get up at 5:30 and they're like, gotta get my workout in and like do all this before 7, because from 7 to like whatever, they have everything down to the, I need to take a crap here at this, almost at the extreme ends. Then you're looking at extroversion, and that's not really, it doesn't display too much in like the artist thing. I've met artists and entrepreneurs who are very introverted and ones that are very extroverted, but obviously you can think of extroversion being a thing that's super helpful, especially like opening up connections. You're looking at agreeableness. Can you sit with people and have a conversation like this and not offend them all the time, or not?
Or like challenge, like constantly just butting heads and like taking the path of full resistance.
I want to know both of your reading schedules now. I'm not joking.
Have you considered your schedule and how it may impact your mental health or like your
I should take it from 5:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. But yeah,
Well, it's better than scrolling.
scrolling is the new smoking. After all.
Little context on like the reading thing that we keep bringing up, the scrolling thing, and we'll get to short form content soon. Don't you worry.
Make it consumable.
Good.
Whenever Mose and I would hang out and Alan's around, and this is when we're not at like a social gathering where like you can actually talk about this stuff. We're like talking about short form content, or when our friend McCann's there, so we're talking. Alan just like sits there quietly and just listens, doesn't care.
Picks up
He's
the
just like,
buzzwords.
what can I use later for a conversation? Extender or starter? And it's fine. I'm not chirping. I'm not. It sounds like I'm making fun of you or something.
Listen, as I've grown older, and it is happening slowly but surely, I can't keep up with like the lingo and the kids, right? So someone said NFT to me. I don't know what that is.
A bagel flavor. A new bagel flavor. At
First
Tim's.
of all, bagel. So
That's
Bagel?
weird.
Bagel?
bagel.
Who says bagel?
You say bagel?
Is that a thumb? You said
bagel? I say bagel. What do you say?
You
What do you
said
guys say?
bagel. I
Bagel?
said bagel, and we interpret it as bagel, but you say bagel.
Bagel.
Anyways,
Thunder Bay
That's a
slang.
very Northern Ontario
that's a fucking
accent.
That's a
Jesus.
shot at all my friends in Northern Ontario.
That's
Hey.
okay. I've known Northern Ontario.
What's up, Dosty?
So, anyway, as far as the extroversion bit goes that we were talking about, and I'll try not to keep bringing up the inside jokes of short form content.
Nobody will
Yeah.
understand.
No, try not to alienate people. We'll stick with
It's a great thing to do in podcasts is to alienate your audience right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
But with extroversion, like we were talking about agreeableness, is like if someone wants to if someone is within a gathering of a group and someone goes, how about we go to this restaurant? Everyone goes, I want to go here. The other person goes, no, I really want to go to the restaurant I talked about. And everyone's like, dude, listen, it's just not the buzz tonight. We're not trying to do this tonight. How about we go somewhere we can all agree? And he goes, nah, I'm going home. And we all know people like this.
I would even say that wouldn't be surprised if all of us have done that before,
Absolutely.
because you're just maybe not conscious of how that could affect people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, screw what others want at the moment. I really do not want to go to that place.
Yeah.
And hey, am I wrong for taking a little bit of time for myself? When you take that to the extreme and you're doing that every single time you're talking to somebody, you're very disagreeable. And
Right.
you can see how that wouldn't help you too much if you're an employee. If you're a full-on CEO or something, you actually want to be a little bit disagreeable, because if every single employee comes up to you and says, I want a raise, I did well, I want a promotion, if you're agreeable, you find it really hard to say no to them. But you need a little bit of, or actually a lot of disagreeableness to be those $1 million and $1 billion people. And the final thing is neuroticism, which I know a lot of people in the field don't like to say anymore, like the word neuroticism, because it's
there's a stigma to it, and I feel like never mind.
Well, words like crazy, things that were everywhere in the literature before the 70s. You read the books that are in there, crazy, manic depressive, all these words, they're sort of just being phased out of the literature, and neuroticism is one of them. Still in use, so I'll use it. And it's just your proneness to negative emotions. So are you likely to feel depressed? Are you likely to feel really crappy, anxious all the time? If you're sitting in a gathering, and it has nothing to do with extroversion, but are you likely to just feel like, I just don't want any of this right now. I just want to be home. And that is huge in artists as well. I mean,
how many artists create through pain, right? That's the classic. Everyone hears about that. I got broke up with my boyfriend or girlfriend, I wrote this album or whatever. And I feel like you tend to see a lot of artists just being depressed people. And I think in the last 2-3 years, there's been this sad boy, sad girl meme.
Music. You said meme? I was gonna say music.
Well,
music, yeah.
The meme, I just mean culturally, being a sad boy, sad girl, whether you make music or you just dress that way or you listen to that music, it's it's a cool thing to be depressed. Not really cool, but
no, I mean, that's the way
it's
people communicate. I've actually seen that. It's like you said, music, but also the grander cultural moment right now is if you ask, it used to be you ask someone how they were and they would just say, good. And
good.
Yeah, you get that pleasantry out of the way. I'm good. How about you? And he goes,
internally, I'm screaming.
but what you
I'm
say,
good.
I'm good.
Weather? Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
How's the wife? And you move on.
Right.
Yeah.
Now what's happened is the whole how's it going? And he's like, I want to kill myself. And it's that's normally just completely okay to say. People say that. And it's how is that okay? Maybe I'm old school with that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're a traditionalist, but well, it's one thing I see a lot too is it's people purposely stay up late. I can't sleep, guys. Let's do I got on this morning. I went on Twitch. I can't remember why I was going on, but I went on Twitch at 9 a.m. And I saw this guy, Dwarf Mom, but we know him. Oh, he's streaming at 9 a.m. our time, so 6 a.m. his time. Okay. And the title of the stream was just playing whatever. Can't sleep, guys, come hang with me.
Oh yeah.
And it's a thing. It almost seemed like it was a selling point of I can't sleep. And I hear a lot of people too, they're just I stay up until 5.
Oh yeah. And it's you see that too, with Mose was saying, Billie Eilish. She's arguably one of the most popular artists right now. And if you listen to her, she's just quite literally actually just sad moaning.
Yeah.
About not even heartbreak or anything. It's just I'm just
existence.
sad. Yeah. Existence is pain. Yeah. And it's
life is suffering.
Is that her brand? Existence is pain.
I'd say.
That's kind of a sick brand. Hey, you're welcome, Eilish.
Merch.
Welcome, Billiam.
But yeah, so I mean, like you said, you've picked up, and that's on the rise. Maybe that's I don't know the pattern. Maybe that.
I don't know where that ends. I don't know if that ends in a good place.
Well, doesn't it just bounce back?
Yeah.
It's just
Within culture or within the people, does it bounce back?
within the culture,
I
like
think
a
within the
cultural
culture.
swing.
It
It swings.
Within culture, if you're looking at the swinging, you can see that across time, right? Like you
Right.
have like your roaring 20s where it's like
Yeah.
let's just go have so much fun, and then you have your like Great Depression in
Yeah.
the 30s. Then you have like the hustle and bustle of the 40s, and like all the death happens in the war, and then right after in the 50s, yeah, there's economic boom, but people like existentialism comes out of that, right? People are just like existence is pain. So it happens all throughout. So I wonder if the current cultural moment, if we're picking up on something, means that the next one is going to be like just a buzz. Like you just
Totally different.
Well, one thing I'm thinking about too is with like the advent of social media and just we're all mini celebrities at this point now.
Yeah.
Like the people, especially who post a lot, it's just constant like attention. And when I look at sadness and when people are vocal about it, people flock. Like it's swarms of people. Go, are you okay? Are you
We've
okay?
talked about this before.
And it's almost like because we get so much stimulation of attention. There's potential that when you get offline, all of a sudden a vacuum appears of no attention.
Right.
Because life is not filled with attention unless you're a famous person. But once you log on online, it's like, especially if you're posting a lot.
Right.
So I wonder if the sad boy, sad girl, like culture and the meme of it all, like is kind of being born with has come up with social media, where it's like we're so used to attention when we go online, which we're online all day. When we get off, how do we continue that IV drip of like people giving us, are you okay? Is everything okay?
and that's the thing, yeah.
There's a trend where girls or guys, whoever, would set their phone up and just cry in front of their phone.
See, that's what I thought of when you mentioned that at first, and I'm like, I wanted to bring that up.
They cry.
Craziness?
And then they write a
What
big
is it,
caption.
on TikTok and everything?
TikTok, Instagram.
selfie video, crying, or like very emotional in some way with text on top of it saying something, a story.
It's okay to
a
cry.
personal
No, it's like
anecdote.
it's okay to cry. We need to normalize crying. People hold in their emotions
Which
too much.
Sure, true.
but maybe
But-
not the best way to express that.
Well, what
or share that.
from I guess like a studied perspective, what is wrong with that? Because like I feel like I have my opinion if what's wrong with it, but like it's kind of based in just fucking intuition.
Well, what's your intuition of what's wrong with it?
Okay, so I feel like when you're crying is when you're at your lowest low.
Sure.
And I'd say some sort of like celebration is at your highest high. And I've noticed when I share anything on the extremes of my like happiness or my, I don't even know what you call that, emotion, when I share extremes or vocalize them too much or focus on them and bring attention to them, I find that I don't live a life that's steadily on an uprise, staying neutral and staying balanced and never too high, never too low.
Right.
I find when I'm like, I don't know, if I'm sharing that stuff, I would rather deal with it personally and the people who are close around me, because that's going to keep me on an even trajectory upwards. Whereas I feel like if you share it and you normalize it too much and you do it too much, you're just living a life like this. And I don't think there's stability, consistency, or generally happiness if your life is like this. You kind of want it's like the stock market. You kind of want, it's like slowly going up.
Yeah, in the best case scenario, you want like long-term minute increase, right? You don't from like a, I guess, studied perspective, whatever that is. What I can tell you is like the extreme, I mean, the social media comes into it, obviously, because we all have extreme moods. We all have those days where like we absolutely do not want to get out of bed, and that's becoming more normalized, which is good. On top of the happiness, euphoria that you're getting when you're next to the bluest waters and the whitest beaches, and you're posting that on Instagram as well. But the thing is, with the posting of extremes, like you're saying, is not only becoming normalized, it's becoming actually like sought after. It's becoming expected that you post something that like, you know, shows that you're at your lowest low, and you post something that shows that you're at your highest high. And for the person that's doing that, it just seems to me, and this isn't, you know, something that's in the literature, but it just seems to me that like now you're getting used to that. Like you said, you use a good word. You said flocking. So, you know, someone goes, just at a low tonight. You know, if it's someone who has a good amount of followers, just at a low tonight, and they have maybe like 50,000 followers, they're getting at least 3,000, 4,000 replies back to that, or some sort of an interaction with that, saying, oh no, are you okay, whatever, how many of those 3,000 or 4,000 do you actually think stay around for some sort of a meaningful, let's work through your trauma or whatever it is, your sadness? I don't know. Are they flocking to that to just get attention right away? Are they flocking to that because that's what you do?
And another note on that, like, one of the things that I've had friends struggle with and that I've struggled with, especially when I moved to Toronto, was that sometimes it can seem like living in this city that you are surrounded by people all the time, but still feel completely alone or isolated in some way. And I wonder how much of that dynamic plays out on social media, where you have a bunch of people checking in after you post something like that and say like, oh man, how are you? How you doing? Hope you feel better. But after you see that message pop up in your phone, you get that notification like, oh, yeah, someone cares. After that's over, like, my concern is what comes next.
That's the perfect concern to have, because what comes next is nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So they almost, what that does to the brain is they get used to like, oh, when I'm sad, I'll post this.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is I get X amount of people coming to me and saying, oh my God, are you okay? And my brain is just going off like, oh my God, yes, 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 yes. Soon as that's over, not only have I not solved the thing that's actually underneath why I was crying, why I was at that mood in the first place, but I've also got this like energy from like all these people. Like I have this idea that maybe I'm bigger than I am. Maybe I'm like very important to everybody. Mm-hmm. Maybe I have all these friends, and none of that is true. Mm-hmm. What it's doing is it's just actually stopping you from working on problems that you have, growing as a person, if that's important to you, and trying to just move on, as opposed to like living in this moment of like, woe is me. And
being rewarded for it too. That's the scary part. Yeah. There's that really like tricky reward loop that, to your point, distracts people from actually dealing with fixing what caused. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, even just looking at the emotion, saying like, what immediately preceded this? Why did I feel that way?
Oh yeah.
Well, everyone says the first thing is like acknowledgement, or first road to recovery, and generally everything is acknowledgement or just diagnosing what it is.
Right.
But I feel like that's almost the easiest thing, because it's like Google, someone tells you whatever it is, you know it, and then you're like, oh, I've done the first step. But the first step,
I made some progress.
It's literally taking one step up a 1,000 step what do you call staircase.
It's the same idea, and I'm sure you guys, I'm sorry if you have talked about this and I've missed it, but it's the same idea of when you have an idea as a creative and you go, I want to make this movie, or I want to create this book. Boom, that flash comes to you and you immediately tell everybody. And what that does is it just gets rid of the energy. You're like, I did something today. I told people about my idea. Mm-hmm. And you never actually start working on it, not realizing that coming up with the idea, that flash, is 1% of the 100.
Yeah.
The 99% is hard work, messing up, starting again, hard work, messing up, and over again. And no one does that anymore, because they're just like, oh yeah, that's cool. Which is the same thing here, where it's like awareness, acknowledging. That's what we need.
Right.
They bring that up to themselves and they're like, yeah, like you said, all right, well, at least I'm aware of it. Cool, that's 1%. Yes, it's the necessary first percent, but there's like 99% left for you to like actually truly feel like you're at a better place, and people are just happy to go, yeah, cool, okay, good.
Now I'm gonna make a RuneScape analogy here.
Here we go.
Okay.
I've played I don't know how this is gonna go. I'm excited.
No, this is actually fire too. Okay, because when we look at that first percent, let's say you're going to level 2 from level 1 on any skill. Okay, it's a small amount of XP. When you are on that road to recovery, it's similar to when you're trying to reach that 1 out of 99 in that skill. Because once you get to level 92, or it's one of the high, like low 90s, you're halfway to 99.
Yeah.
Meaning you take the first whatever amount of steps, but it doesn't get easier as you get towards the solution. If anything, that staircase gets steeper.
Right.
And you're not even halfway until you're at 90% complete.
Yeah.
There's literally like everything you've done before equals the last 10%.
That last 10% is actually as hard as like 50 or like almost a whole thing.
Almost the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about just like personal shit with like things you and I deal with as friends and our own personalities, not between each other. It's like an active everyday thing where like you do it and then you realize you did it and you're like, I need to stop doing that. to a friend, or like you catch yourself. Maybe you do it, you find out through writing or whatever it is. It's like, it's not like you dedicate one day to working on it. It's like you got to be actively throughout your whole life, like, I guess, analyzing, sort of lightly analyzing how you interact.
Yeah.
Whether that's through meditation or writing or talking.
It's very, and I'm also deeply aware of the fact that, like, when we're talking about this, you know, necessarily if you bring on anyone onto your show that's with mental health and like with psychology, we're not at a great moment right now, you know what I mean, societally. So what it ends up sounding like is I just come in here and rant for like, you know,
do better,
just I hate this, I hate that. And it's not like that. I think ultimately it's good to be said that, like, people I think are trying. They are trying, whatever way that is, whether that's the right way or the wrong way. I think people are trying, but it's just that they almost think, and we were joking about this before we started, I think, recording, which is, you know, give me A or B. There's nothing else. Like, just give me something right now. I just want something to be done. If I'm feeling like shit, cool. I now know that I need to go to a psychologist and see somebody. Cool. You know, that's the zeitgeist. As soon as I go in there, I don't want him to tell me to start having fish oil and start doing yoga and start meditating, because that takes too long. Give me something right now. Tell me to read this book and do this, and with the third step, I'm done. That just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Like, it's a process, not a task.
I feel like that goes into, slightly off topic, but I feel like some people think, oh, psychologists don't work because I went 12 times. They're just trying to keep me coming to take my money.
Yeah.
You know, it's a business. Which to a degree, I guess it is, but also maybe people need to know that going into see a psychologist is not 12 sessions, you'll feel this way. It's really just helping you
I think it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Oh, like
homework.
When I was seeing my client this past year, it took 16 sessions. And after 16, like with the very last session, I was like, oh my God, no, we're cracking. No, we're breaking new ground. I want to keep going. But like, it was a very harsh 16 is all you're accounted for. That's what your insurance will give you. And with the last one, we were just opening up, breaking new ground, and it had to end right there.
Yeah,
because
that's
you
tough.
just don't know what the process is like. You can go for like 20. First of all, it might not be the right fit for you, because it's like dating. You have to go around until you're like, I kind of feel comfortable with this person. But even then, stick to it. You know what I mean? Everything. It's just a process. And same thing with like losing weight. Same thing with feeling better, getting good at something. You know, watching a tutorial on YouTube isn't going to be the end all be all to like you learning how to edit, for instance.
Right.
Now, I want to stick on this just for a second here. Let's put you back into that hypothetical situation. Take the client out of it. You are with somebody and they're really making some progress, but it's their last session, and you know that you're not going to see them anymore.
Sure.
If you're in that situation and that person had expressed an interest in trying to figure this out on their own because their financial situation or whatever, they're not going to go back to therapy, what resources or books, where would you point that person?
Well, that's a great question. I think it would be resources like books or I don't know if you're asking about specifics, but it would be resources like books and videos, but with a little bit of a sigh at the end. I would go, okay, I guess this is it. Because there are so many ways, just like how you say something and people will, you know, misquote it at you like 2 months later and you go, that's literally not how I meant it.
Yeah.
There is a bit of guidance needed with these resources. That's why the people are there in the first place.
Right.
Supposedly because we're the experts and like we can tell them. And I'm doing the air quotes because I'm not there yet fully, but that's why they're there, because they need guidance. Unfortunately, it does mean that at the end, like you said, I have to say, go look at this book or go look at this video with the hope that maybe they'll look at it and take what they need to out of it. Whether they get that out of it, it depends on if you're optimistic or pessimistic. I tend to be...
It's pretty hit and miss.
I tend to be pessimistic a lot with that, because I've had people go, yeah, I really liked it. They don't read it or they don't watch it. And it's like, okay, well...
This did nothing.
Yeah.
This did nothing for any of us.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, I also feel like many books are out there that all have the same message, but the popular one is how the message was packaged and how it like connects to like a human. Does
Versus
it fit
there
into
might
that?
be something more tactical that's just not so mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it's like
the big argument with this, by the way, is like people go, well, that isn't proper. It's like, what is it? It's like How to Unfuck Yourself, books like that, or like Atomic Habits.
Yeah, right.
People love to shit on books like this because it's not proper technical, like you said. But it's like the normal person, which by the way is 99.9% of people, the ones that aren't in academic psychology, isn't going to pick up a journal article and go, oh yes, methodology, resources. It's like, no, just tell me a life story. Tell me about like that time where like I've read the beginning of Atomic Habits, like he gets hit by a baseball and it's like an amazing story. And it's like how I worked my way out of that. That's a compelling story. That's what you need for people. You don't need to tell them, well, we looked at this introduction and the methods were, and it's like,
I don't want to read an abstract. Okay.
you know it's bad because I hate reading journal articles. Everyone inside the field hates doing it, hates writing it, hates reading it, and hates discussing it. But we all do it because it's our job.
It's just part of the...
That's what we have to do.
It's what it is.
But it's this thing where it's like, yeah, don't go towards those resources. I think they're needed. If Atomic Habits or The Alchemist or whatever it is does it for you, if it does it for you, then it does it for you.
That's a big thing too. Yeah, it's like same thing goes with what we always talk about with friends. Like they have a way they're living their life.
Sure.
Who is anyone to say you should do any different? Like if that's what's gonna work for you and you're happy, like do it. If the book works and helps you.
But the difference then comes if you get to a point where you go, I read the Atomic Habits and I read Alchemist, and now it's not working. If you want to like dig deeper, you need to be open to going up the ladder a little bit, making it more difficult for yourself. Because if you keep reading the same level of resources or watching the same level of stuff and going, it's not working, maybe you need to try a bit harder. Maybe. And that's just my way of looking at it. Maybe it's not working, but trying harder is also definitely an aspect. And now you can start going towards the more technical stuff if you want to.
Mm-hmm. I kind of want to bring it back to like anxiety, depression relative
For
to
sure.
artists.
Yeah.
2 questions. We'll start with one. Like we're more artists type people, and I guess entrepreneurs, maybe not entrepreneurs. Let's talk with just artists. Like they're more prone to like anxiety and depression. And the more artistic the person is, what I find with my experience is like they'll just be like, I'm getting off social media for a month.
Right.
Detox, or like they like fall away into a cave for like a month or 2 and just like do their thing. Like what is it about artists in that where they fall into the personality traits? I don't know if it's that, but why do they do that?
I think if we're trying to just, couch psychology it,
Throw some spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks.
some bro science YouTube.
Listen, we're yeah.
We could, but with that disclaimer of like it's just bro science. Yeah, I mean, informed bro science, but like their neuroticism maybe is like a little bit higher up, where like it's a little bit more volatile. Their emotions are a bit more volatile. So whereas I'm feeling a 7 at all times if I have low neuroticism, if they have high ones, they'll feel like 10s. They'll feel the crap out of those 10s, and they'll really feel the shit out of those 1s or 2s. They'll really feel that. Likewise, there are days when they go, with social media, I've had enough, and they really feel the experiences that they have, because with the artists, it's that mix of openness and neuroticism. That's hand in hand, always. Mix of openness and neuroticism. So they're really open to these experiences, and they really feel it. So they go into like, fuck it, I'm gone. I'm off of social media for like 60 days, and it works for them. Or they'll have days where they like are plugged in and are sitting there until 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. like you were talking about, and saying, this is what I'm doing every single day. Mm-hmm. I'm going to revamp my social media. So it's almost this love-hate relationship. But the bottom line of it is they have this trait where they really actually love all these experiences in the world, and they really feel it. The bad side of it comes where they fall into an experience that's not great for them. So many artists like abuse drugs, for instance. You can see how those mix of traits can be, not healthy. Mm-hmm. For instance,
no tandems.
To put it lightly, yeah.
Yeah, no tandem drug use.
That's right.
He just picked up on that joke. More alienation. No problem.
You alienated me. I didn't even get that one.
It's all good.
It's great.
That's a post-pod. I feel like that's a post-pod
we'll
conversation.
Talk, yeah.
Potty. I wanted to jump in there quickly.
So I said 2 questions.
I will give you your second question right after.
That's fine. Yeah, go for it.
I want to
forgot
follow
mine.
Well, it's great. It's a save. It's a save.
Kidding, yeah.
I will say, if you are somebody who's really high in openness, and I would describe myself that way,
One of the habits that's really one of the just it's such a small adjustment. It's nothing huge, but when I do browse social media, obviously I have my friends on there and people that I like, but I follow a lot of creative people. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. Where it does get problematic, though, is if you are winding down. So I usually end my workday. I'm done. I'm not looking at my computer after 6, after I eat. But there was a time where I would go on social media right before I'd go to bed, or like we'll call it 8 or 9. And to your point about just absorbing that, I wasn't going because I was interested in what my friends were doing. I wanted to be inspired by other people's work, but as a byproduct of that, after I was done scrolling, I felt like I had so much residue from that scroll where I was like, oh my god, I'm so inspired. Oh, that was a great idea. This is how it could apply to this project that I'm working on right now. So this adjustment that I made and that I would advise other people to make if they have, like for me, a lot of mental health problems start kicking up when my sleep starts to get a little funky.
Oh yeah.
Check yourself in that post dinner, right before bed time slot, and evaluate, like, am I doing stuff that's going to help me reach my goal of getting to bed and getting a good sleep, or is that social media getting in the way? Because it feels great when you're there, right? You turn on the fire hose, you're getting so inspired, you're like, this could apply to so many things that I'm doing, but I don't have the ability, at least, to shut that off after I get it going. It's like a flywheel that gets a lot of momentum, and I'm like, well, now I have to sit with this, and this is where it goes back to that idea of, okay, now I'm super inspired. It's really easy for me to jump on my computer and bang out a project. But it's not helpful because then I'm like, I can't sleep now. This is terrible.
Like, I feel like a lot of people, and we know a guy too, it's like he gets inspired and it's just like,
I got to make something.
Or like, let's talk about it. Or like, let's like plan it and do it. And it's like, maybe how do you manage that energy? How do you redirect the artillery to like tomorrow?
Yeah.
How do you schedule the launch of the rocket tomorrow? You know what I mean? Like,
and not disown it too. Not say, I don't want to feel this passion, because I don't think that's healthy either.
Yeah. Well,
saying, I'm really energized, but I don't want to feel like this, so I'm going to do, maybe it's drugs, maybe, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you turn to like all sorts of things. But I mean, you've touched on something important, which is the timing of when you do it.
Right.
Like,
big.
I find like in the morning, if you do it,
perfect. Really healthy.
fine. But
what?
If you
scroll
like,
for inspiration?
not right out of bed. Yeah, scroll. Not right out of bed. Take an hour and a half. Really get into your day. Do your exercise routine, whatever it is. Go for a run, go for a walk. Maybe drink your coffee and sit there and just look. Whatever it is, right? And then get into it. I feel like in those moments of vulnerability right out of bed and before bed, it's probably the worst time because you're like so open to any sort of information. So it leaves the door open for that passion, but it also leaves the door open for like, I want that a lot.
Yeah.
Or
now
like,
I can't manage that energy, and I'm buzzing.
And if you're doing it before night, or just any time with the energy, to your point, is it's so hard to like take that energy that you're talking about and put it into something, because you're thinking grand scheme. You're thinking when your project is done. You're thinking of when my book is done.
Right.
And people are adoring me and it's working and they're loving it and it's helping people. But what that requires, that's also the last one. We keep talking about percentages. It's that last 1%. It's like the 100th% is when you get to take in the fruit of your labor. Before then, it's the labor. And
it's not so fun.
It isn't.
It's not
fun.
so fun if you're just thinking about the end.
Yeah, it's like one of my pet peeves has always been like when people ask writers, like they ask, oh, so what's the process like for you? And they're like, oh, I love it. It's like I love sitting at my desk and just typing away. And it's like, come on. You're selling a false dream, bro. Like that's not what it actually is.
No.
It's work.
Yeah.
It's hard work. Same with you, Will, like with editing or something. If you're actually putting together a work, I've seen your work. It looks fucking fantastic, but I'm sure it's not fun putting.
Terrible.
We spoke about it literally because we recorded a pod earlier today. We spoke about the same thing, like the last video. I don't know if you saw the Cumbrace thing that came out recently.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
It was like, editing in the first shoot day, the first half of the shoot day, I was feeling like absolute ass.
Oh yeah.
Just like I didn't plan it was my fault, but I didn't plan it properly.
Happens though.
It's irresponsibility, but
A little conscientiousness, we like to see.
Sure.
We love that.
No, I was definitely lazy. I think I was playing like a video game or something. Shouldn't have been doing
I'll
that.
do this later, and then
shit.
do it.
Wait, Lucas, I'm sorry. That's the guy I work with.
I was thinking that. I was thinking that
wasn't
as you
realizing-
said it. I was like, I don't know if he wants this on air.
Looked great.
Yeah.
Final
Sure.
result.
No, honestly, turned out great. I was happy with it. but yeah, you deal with like there's a lot of struggle in just the first mile of the project.
Right.
Usually the first mile, and then right in the middle before the climax, and you have the breakthrough, and then it's just the
Feels
tweak
great.
up. Then it's
Middle.
After that breakthrough, it's just tweaking up and then completing it and setting it up.
I mean, you and I and our friend Ryan, we finished a 50-hour series with the professor John Vervaeke at U of T. It's a 50-hour series. Now, we had to go very many times, and there were days during when we were actually shooting where it's like, oh my God, I just do not want to be here. And it's good to be honest about this. It's like, I don't want to be here.
Right.
The room is hot. The room is cold. I'm hungry. You can't make any noise. Someone's phone just went off.
We got to reshoot that.
You got to reshoot that. And he
Lab
wasn't
mic
maybe
didn't
sometimes
work.
comfortable. And it's like, But now you're looking at it. It's like 50 hours are out. And the comments I'm seeing it's like changing people's lives. They're like, how is this here? That's cool to see. But like, we know what it took to get there.
It's insane. And I mean, what we were talking about with the struggle through working also, I think, leads into imposter syndrome. And I feel like there's a lot of videos and information out there about imposter syndrome, but I feel like most of it leads to you're not an imposter.
Feel better about yourself.
Stop feeling that way.
Yeah.
But what's like a practical way
Say
to
these
actually
3 affirmations before you go to bed.
and when you wake up?
Yeah,
you're most
and it'll be
vulnerable.
fine. You won't feel like an imposter.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel
it's
like
fine.
that it's like it is simple. I mean, for a lot of issues, it is simple as like don't feel that way. I guess you could hard nose it that way, but what is there like a different way you think someone could deal with imposter
For
syndrome?
imposter
And
syndrome.
let's talk about mainly in like a creative field. So it's like judging your ability to make something that people want to watch.
Right. I think the mindset to like have with that is to realize that it's probably not going to go away. There's a moment of like, take a second, pause, and stop and realize that it's not going to go away. So you look at some of the most successful artists, authors, whoever it is, and it just doesn't go away. And they're multi-million-dollar platinum hits, books out, and they're just like, every time I'm sitting down to start, like Neil Gaiman, he wrote American Gods, Coraline, all these books, like Good Omen, Bad Omen, I think on Prime. Every time he sits down to start, he's like, it feels like I've forgotten how to write. It feels like I've gotten all these awards and I'm looking at them on my wall, but like, I don't feel like an author. I don't feel like an artist. How do I make an album? Everybody feels that. And that's the worst, I guess, advice to someone because they want to know how to change it.
They're often looking for a fix.
Well, I think there is no 180 fix, like you won't feel it, but there is like managing techniques.
There's
right?
managing techniques. Yeah. So it's symptoms as opposed to cause, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You can work on the symptoms of it. And one of those things that you can do is to like actually, when I say realize, it's not like you reading, yeah, everyone feels that way. Yeah, next. It's taking in what it would mean for someone like potentially even like athletes, pro athletes to be like, yo, like my body is very much capable of this and I'm on like the top team, but I don't feel like I can go out there and do this because like, what the hell? Holy shit. To take in how that would feel like for them and realize you're part of a team that feels like that. You're part of a population that feels like they don't belong. But then it's also to realize, what thing do I not belong to? Like, what artists can you, like, we can all pick artists and famous people that don't belong in the category that they're supposed to belong to. Like those avant-garde, like, artists, those niche, like, authors or, like, actors where you're like, that guy's a little weird, eh? But he's, like, the most successful person. What category are we trying to, like, aspire to fit in? What is that in our heads?
Like, is there even a category, or are you just kind of making one up?
It would be important for them to like draw out of themselves, like write it down, like what am I trying to be and what am I not right now. So what is in your head, what does the most successful creative look like in whatever field you're in? Give me 3 and then where do you fit in?
Yeah. And I think the point that kind of ties all that together is just perspective. I think however that manifests itself, like one of the behaviors that I do want to call out that I've definitely experienced myself and that has led to feeling like an imposter sometimes is just isolating yourself and your work and only comparing your work to what? I don't know, maybe last week. And you're not looking at, okay, with people that have been doing this as long as me, like what's the skill level? What's the production value? What does that look like? Have they learned something that I haven't? Are they, I don't know. But make sure that you're not just isolating yourself. And I think that kind of goes back to the point of it's kind of introversion and extroversion. Like if you just want to spend time with your own ideas, great. You might create some fantastic work, but just understand that if you're not kind of anchoring yourself against something, it's really easy for that boat to just get lost. And that's when you spiral, and then it's just not good.
And I mean, everyone does this, right? We like compare. If you're a musician, you compare. You're starting out. You're just like, well, I want to be John Mayer or like Dr. Dre or whatever, and you're like, dude, no.
You've been doing this for a week. Let's relax.
Like, dude, you just picked up a guitar. You're learning tabs for the first time. You're like, what is this? What? And then you're just like, I can't play Neon by John Mayer, or like Danny California by Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's like, yeah, no shit. And you won't be able to for like 10 or 15 years, if that.
Yeah.
That's a unique piece of art. Create your own unique thing.
Right.
Or if not, realize it's like a linear growth up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't get there.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Expectations are huge. In that
Well, I think that leads directly into like another question or conversation topic I want to talk about, which is like, I think, and it goes into the inspiration combo you were saying, or you were talking about. I think a lot of people go on social media, myself included, only when I go on for too long, like over an hour. I go on Instagram and I see people doing things, and I start feeling creative people in my space, and I start thinking, I'm not doing that. Like they're 23, they're 25, they're this, or like.
And it's a global thing too. Like
Right.
that didn't exist before 2012. You couldn't see what other people in other cities were doing.
Exactly. And I'm also like, how am I different than them? They're doing the same thing as me, and we're in the same city. There's like Toronto videographers doing incredible things.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that anxiety. I get that like trembling. Like I literally can't start working.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't go on social media that long anymore, so I don't really get that feeling, but I know people fucking do get that feeling. I
That's a
remember I used to
common
get
thing.
it. It's
Yeah.
a huge thing.
Yeah.
Some people draw inspiration. I would never really draw inspiration. It'd usually be like paralysis
Right.
in my bed, and
Right.
I'm like, where do I go?
Uh-oh.
How do you think you manage that anxiety? Do you just take a step back and like try and draw from some perspective on, you know, where your life is in general?
Perspective is always good. But like, I think my real answer is like one that nobody likes to hear and everyone deep down knows isn't the truth, which is like, get rid of it. Now, I can't really say that because I have it.
Delete social media.
Not delete, but get rid of, drastically reduce the amount of time
Right.
you're on it. Like for me, I got rid of TikTok completely. I had it for one day 3 years ago or something. And I was like,
TikTok.
TikTok, yeah.
3 years ago?
Or 2 years
Just
ago. I
calling
don't
him
know.
out on the details. I love it. Straight down his throat. Carry on.
Musically, what was it? Whatever it was
I
called.
think it was Musically like 3 years ago, yeah.
Whenever
You
it was
had Musical.ly?
TikTok. Whenever it just became
Okay,
TikTok.
Yeah.
Scrolling through it, and I'm like, this is Vine, because I used to have Vine.
Yeah.
Loved Vine, and that's how I would start my days. Oh my god, this is so good. But then 50 minutes would go by or an hour would go by, and I'd feel depressed.
Why do I feel this way?
And I saw this spark in myself when I got TikTok that first day, and I was like, and I knew I had to cut it off right there because it was way too good.
I do this with Call of Duty sometimes because I love playing Call of Duty, where I find myself like, I'm starting to get into it. I need to wean myself off, or I'm going to be there every day.
What I do is like, I just don't follow really anybody famous on Instagram.
It's probably
That's
good.
it. That's it. I don't have any. I follow maybe like something about the city of Toronto just to get like news.
6 bars.
6 Buzz you got to follow just for the memes. Apart from that, it's like that. I just want to see what my friends are up to, and even then my friends will be like, I'm in Dubai today, and I'm like, dude, fuck, I want to be in Dubai, but like. That's the hard thing. I went from like an hour, 2 hours a day to like, I'll pull this up and it'll be like, you have something from 4 days ago. And I'm like, oh, cool. I haven't seen that. Because I just don't go on. And I don't feel that as much. But I don't know if that's realistic for people.
I don't think it's realistic for a lot of people, especially those who need to like stay in tune with what's like the meta, I guess.
Their job, maybe even.
What's that?
Right.
It might be their job.
It might be their job.
Yeah.
To be a
Let's-
tastemaker.
well, let's just say it's not their job. Okay, fuck. Actually, we should probably say it's their job.
Because that's
I
a
guess
lot of
it's kind of
people's
my
jobs.
job.
And it'll be more people's jobs in the future as well.
Yeah.
Or even indirectly their job.
Indirectly, yeah.
Like,
I would say
it's-
indirectly, both of our jobs involve some
yeah.
understanding of social media.
And like consuming the space.
Right.
I don't really get the anxiety anymore at all,
Mhm.
but I don't spend a whole lot of time, and I can tell when it's like over an hour. Once I hit that hour mark, it's when
You can just feel it like water in a kettle. I almost blanked there. The pressure builds in that. Okay.
bubbling. Yeah.
We can cut that out
nice.
if we want. You're just terrible.
Dick, you're just being a dick. You gotta be a dick sometimes.
Yeah.
Should
I
we
like
get
that.
into being mean?
I love it. I
versus
love it.
nice?
I love it.
Inauthentic.
Fuck, what was I saying, Mose?
You were talking about you don't get
Sorry.
the anxiety.
Shitty
anymore.
kettle reference.
So I like, obviously, what you're saying. It's the truth. It's not feasible for the most part.
Yeah.
Let's actually say you just have to go on social
Sure.
media and you're getting that anxiety. What is a method to reduce the symptoms? And is there a way to even address the cause with?
I wanted to jump here first because I have an idea before you give the clinical perspective. Just be
Bro science,
bro
informed
science.
clinical
Informed, yeah.
perspective.
exactly. The step before completely eliminating it, because I think that is if it's not unrealistic. I mean, for most people, they just want to be a part of it. But the step before completely going cold turkey is just set a timer. Say, I'm gonna give myself 10 minutes. You'd be amazed at how much you can consume in 10 minutes if you're super conscious. But you need some kind of barrier and boundary for how much you're going to consume. And then pick your spots. Like you said earlier, maybe right before bed's not a good time. Maybe right in the morning's not a good time. But there is going to be some time in your day where it makes sense. And if you're conscious about how long you're there, I think that's worked really well for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we keep knocking on the fact that it's maybe not even feasible anymore, right? Like for a lot of people, myself included. I mean, I'm talking a lot of shit about like, yeah, get off of it. I do spend like 10 minutes or like 15 minutes a day.
I mean, it's hard not to.
You have to kind of like
Yeah.
keep up with your social world, especially during COVID, right? Like, it's like,
Imagine just being offline for COVID.
oh my god,
What would happen to you as a human being? You would just
Oh.
lose your like. What the fuck? Thank God it exists. because of the
It's
COVID
amazing
thing.
that it exists, and it's like doing so many things for people, but it's like now it's not feasible. It's wedged itself into our lives. So what do we do? I mean, I love the time suggestion. Again, is that feasible for people?
But I mean, it is probably feasible for people. But I think if they don't do the time, they forget or whatever.
Mhm.
You have that feeling. It pops up.
Yeah.
How do you manage it? That's where I really want to get to, because sometimes you don't realize. Most times you get off your phone going, "Whoa, when did I get on? And how long has it been?"
Right.
That's
Okay, so
usually
we're
the feeling.
assuming you've done it, and now you're sitting there with the feeling. What
Yeah.
do you do? I mean, that's as variable as can come. Like, I've seen people deal with it by like going for a walk. If you can't go for a walk, like just breathing, listening to like music, or maybe sometimes none of that stuff works. Like you put on, our friend Kyle, who like was talking about, I think, I put on my like diffuser. I've put on
Oh,
like,
yeah. It was
like
a TikTok.
yeah, the water is running or whatever, and it's like none of this is working. I'm still keyed up.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's like you probably wouldn't have wanted to do it in the first place. In a worst case scenario, just kind of plug off then.
Yeah. When you notice it.
When you notice it,
Yeah.
plug off. Maybe not even, you're off social media, we're assuming. Do something then that's whatever to you is the most calming.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you're looking at me like, yeah, like no shit. But it's like, that's why it's so bad, because we can't do anything. Like, there's nothing to diagnose when you have that empty feeling of like, oh shit, if I'm like on my deathbed in like however many years, and I go, I just want it one more hour to like look into the eyes of my loved ones. That's where that went. Is it morbid? Yes. Is it needed? I think so.
Perspective.
I think so. Because when you're 80 and you're dying, you're ailing, and you wanted 10 to 15 more hours, just one more day to see whatever it is, you're not going to get it back because you watched Cody Co.
Right.
Well, so that's kind of interesting that to find positivity, you have to first think about negativity.
Exactly. Because what happens when you shun the negative is you create this faux positive, like, yeah, everything's fine. It's like Pleasantville, like, haha, that's all fine. It's like, no, it isn't.
And we all know people like this in real life. It's the sad part.
Or I feel like we know it all on social media.
Yeah.
Social
It's
media,
like,
both.
Especially pronounced.
dude, it's a fucking thing now where it's like being mean. It's not cancelable, but like you'll get in trouble.
You'll
for
get
being
blown
mean.
up. It'll go
Yeah.
viral.
You don't want to be rude. Yeah.
That's banana lands. Like we grew up in a space where like people were being even worse than mean, just like straight up discriminatory or like
Yeah, really
racist,
bad,
and
yeah.
it was like okay at the time. Now it's not. It's all like, are we gonna get to a point where it's like even just being mean to a certain degree, whatever that? There's no level. I feel like it's just contextual to who you're being mean to. It's
Well,
like,
it's also just like anytime I bring up this stuff, like I just brought up death, and it's like,
Whoa, you can't do that.
whoa, man, you're going to, come on, this wasn't serious, you made it too serious. And it's like, here's the thing about that is you don't talk about that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't talk about that all the time because then you're weird, right? Don't think about that all the time, but just know it's a great exercise. And they call it, in psych, we call this like the 80th birthday exercise. That you always think about, it's your 80th birthday, you have people surrounding you. What do you want to be proud of in your life? And what do you want to be happy about? Don't spend more than 30 seconds thinking about this. Just in a second. If you're 80 and you've made it there, when you look back, what does your life consist of? And I think that really does help. When you realize how many weeks you have in your life. You may die tomorrow. And would you have wanted to spend your last hours
Like that, exactly.
like that? It's a huge thing because I might drop right now as I'm recording this. So what happens then?
so what you're saying is you choose if you're happy.
I mean, you have some personal responsibility.
over.
Before we
Sorry.
go too deep, I have to go.
This guy has to go. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I
He
did.
does.
We-
I do.
we
I
can't-
promised other friends. To
It has
see
been
them.
an hour as well.
I know, this has been
It kind of
really
flew
good.
by.
Wow, it did.
Well, shit. So Alan, what you're saying is you choose if you're happy. If you're sad, you're
a loser.
a loser. No, I'm kidding.
Is that what I'm saying?
No, that's not what he's saying. But it is, just to close off, like negativity leads to positivity in certain categories, right? And it's something that we shouldn't hide the bad parts of life. I
Well, it's a
don't know.
perfect closer
Yeah.
for me because that's my personality. Is you can't get me to pick A or B for my personality. I'll be in the middle.
Not
because
be forced into being complicit.
you need two to be together in harmony. Not black or white. It's black and white.
Black and
You need gray. That's what you need to succeed. So, yes, you need the negative and you need the positive. If you run away and try to hide the poo under the carpet, it's going to stink up the place. So, just being aware of that is going to help quite a bit.
Don't hide your poo. All right. Follow us at RnR Podcast every Friday. New episodes at Alan Kian. Joe Bellows.